All right, welcome back to Off the Crypto Cuff. We're your hosts, Jesse and Jeff, two friends having a drink, all while discussing crypto, current events in the world happening, politics, whatever's going on. Just off the cuff. Don't really have too much plan normally. Just a couple topics, and then we kind of go from there. All while having a drink. Once the drink's finished, then we complete our conversation. So today I'm drinking a little black draft here. It's kind of a bring me back. I've up on here a few times now. Pretty good stuff. It's a local brewery in West Virginia. So, how about you?
I'm wrapping up on the Angels Envy.
All right, very good. So yeah, the crypto markets had a little pump. I feel like lately we've this past week or so we've seen Bitcoin pull up, and then altcoins pulling up behind it. It looks like
Yeah,
Bitcoin's having some resistance, hitting that 120 mark. Kind of bouncing off that. I also saw that XRP kind of popped up there a little bit, hit about $3.60, sitting around 320 right now. Today is July 23rd. So we're kind of pulling back a little bit. You're saying you're saying that Bitcoin dominance is pulling everything back.
yeah.
Basically.
Bitcoin dominance is pulling back up a little bit. So during the last market cycle, Bitcoin dominance topped out at 72%. So it's been higher historically.
Hmm.
So this time it topped out about 65, 66%. So yeah, Bitcoin was rising, but basically its dominance, in other words, the percentage of total crypto market that actually holds relative to everything else, started dropping. And it dropped as low from 66 to 60. So that meant that people were taking profit and rolling into other cryptos, expecting alt season. So
Right.
we can kind of see some rough seas potentially as the amount of people because we're effectively in price discovery. So where's the equilibrium going to equal out for Bitcoin? Is it going to be in the hundreds to fifties? Where is it effectively going to go as people ultimately as the market figures that out? And then as that happens, people decide what their sell points are, and they're going to be selling out and then rolling into alts that they think are going to end up pumping later to multiply their profits. So
Have you done
that's
any Fibonacci charting on this at all?
on it. No, it'd be basically
Yeah.
like a reverse fib on the way it
Okay.
works because it's actually tracking on its way down instead of all the way up. So no,
Okay.
I had not tried tracking it. I have found basically some levels that I think where it will actually hit, where it's actually hit in the past recently.
Hmm.
Um, so 61 was the first, round 52 is the second, and round 40 is the third. So
Okay.
basically, when it hits 40, that's effectively the bottom of where it's going to hit. And if you're not basically rolled out of your alt at that point, you're basically going to be holding a bag for theoretically until the next season. Now, there's even more points being made about the crypto market in this cycle and why this is the last cycle is because of all the legislation and regulatory clarity that's actually going to be getting released this cycle.
Yeah.
And if everything actually gets released and we end up with regulatory clarity in the United States, then it could effectively end our 4-year cycle. We'll still have up and downs, but it's not going to behave on these massive swings. It'll just be on this upward trend with less volatility. So
Hmm.
you'll actually have more of a stock market level type volatility after all this goes through. But as we get into what the true value of crypto is, and with the regulatory clarity, we're going to find out what the real shit show is as well. So a
Right.
lot's going to go to zero. So there's a lot of
Start
people planning.
start weeding things out. Basically, what's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could
So
happen. Yeah.
again, anything we say is not financial advice. So I'm not
Hmm.
trying to promote any particular project. But if you're in a crypto just because you think it's going to pump, chances are it's going to potentially go to zero on you. And you need to consider if it does pump this time, it might be the last time it does it, and you need to sell out of it. So you need to really take a look at your portfolio and decide what is the fair balance between what's going to survive for the next 10, 20, 30, 100 years and what's not going to survive into basically the next 1 to 5.
Yeah. This is what we talked about, utility, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
not financial advice.
not financial advice. Do your own research.
Yeah, for
Those
sure.
those key things. And the AI tools are definitely a place to kind of get started. They have their own biases, so you still need to be careful about what they are saying. But they are a good place to start, especially if you have a lot of questions, especially if they're technical questions, because it can actually help you pull up, documentation or parse documentation, or if you found documentation, like if you're trying to read, say, the Bitcoin white paper, you don't quite understand it. You can take the entire white paper and so I'm going to give it to the AI and say, hey, could you break this down for dummies? They're not searching for doing anything else, but they could actually bring it into more human level or appropriate level of language for you to be able to understand or digest what it's saying.
Some people might call that layman terms.
Yeah.
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 If I remembered that word or term.
Right. I saw too. I thought this was kind of interesting. BNY. I'm not real sure who that is, but BNY partners with Goldman Sachs to offer tokenized money market funds. So that's kind of interesting. Now you're starting to see big names like Goldman Sachs.
BNY Mellon's actually a big. I think they're an investment firm, aren't they?
Probably. I would imagine that's what I don't know BNY though.
So,
but, anyhow, thought that was kind of neat because I know Goldman Sachs, and then they're just trying to offer tokenized funds in their money market. It's more streamlined, sort of big names get actually showing they're being involved versus just happening in the background.
There's a lot more involvement, especially as clarity comes. The Genius Act is going to push that forward. It's going to allow banks to start custodying at least stable coins. Mm-hmm. So it's that's just alone going to help out a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there was some talk about it being kind of a little bit of a poison pill because of the way it's phrased. But the way it's also phrased basically shows how fragile our current system is. So basically, according to law, a stablecoin is required to be audited and 100% backed 1-to-1 to the US dollar by a US asset, so by a US Treasury. That is by a 10,000-fold a higher standard than any bank has. This has been proven by a lot of people that are, go into a bank, be like, I'm doing a YouTube video. I want to show off what, X amount of dollars looks like on a table. I want it in hundreds. And it takes weeks, if not months, for it to get the level of cash they were requesting. Even though it's their money, the bank doesn't have it. The banks are not required to actually hold your money.
Yeah. Well, no bank. Well, we talked about it before. No bank actually has your money in it. It's just it's basically electronics.
Yep. So there's a lot coming on that front. The Clarity Act is still working its way through. And if I understood what was kind of happening, the Clarity Act got paused or delayed, which in turn got the SEC to delay and put on pause of the ETFs that are coming through. And with its current level of its current phrasing, the way it's phrased, I had Grok actually do a quick analysis and for me to help me understand what's going on, what the language is, what it means. Because there's a lot of people that are on X and be like, well, the Clarity Act says that X coin is, mature. And then people are creating basically these lists. And the act itself doesn't mention any coins. So there is no favoritism in it. It's just basically laying the framework of a crypto is considered mature if it meets these conditions. That's all it's saying. So I actually had Grok help me out and compile me a list according to the language of the bill to create a top crypto picks, excluding Bitcoin and ETH, because they're the two biggest. They're probably going to be on that list regardless. So I just wanted to see what else would actually surface out of this. From the top 100 by market cap, revised for Made in America, priority. So basically, all the administration's priorities and everything that they've been saying, right? Because they're wanting to try to promote Made in America cryptos. So based on the Clarity Act fit, and then this is what it came up with. And so some of the lists I don't exactly agree with, but that's what happens when you go through this. So now the first one, and I'm assuming there's no numbers on this, just bullets. So the first one on the list was Solana, then Cardano, Avalanche, Chainlink, Polkadot, Cosmos, Algorand, and Near Protocol. And what I was actually kind of interested in is it's like, wait a minute. And it got kind of interesting because I'm like, okay, so there's two big names actually missing from the list. Why didn't XRP or Hashgraph or Hedera make it to the list? And the current wording of the language says blockchain. And if you're being AI, it's actually using that as not as a generic term, it's using that as a technical term. So
Yeah,
technically, XRP is not a blockchain. Hedera is not a blockchain, it's a hash graph. They are technologically different. So is the bill using blockchain as a generic term, or are they using it as a very specific technical term? And if they're going to go to a more generic term, after a lot of debate between me and Croc, basically what it came up to is saying is like the definition of the bill, or the term of the use of the bill, should be DLT with a very specific, well-defined definition to what technologies that actually encompasses. So there's a lot of potential debate there. So if you don't want to be loose with it or tight with it, so it could end up going to the courts. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, but it was just kind of interesting because I even learned something about XRP that I didn't know, because I thought XRP was more blockchain-ish than it actually is.
Yeah. Well, that's AI for you, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, anything on that list that surprises you?
Not really. Yeah, it makes sense. I was just looking at it as you were talking about it there.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it says, "Hey, Jeffrey." Emoji-friendly version of your revised crypto picks and exclusion formatted for easy sharing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are, I think both of us, between all of those, we're in most of those. Except for AVAX. I don't think we're Avalanche.
I used to be in Cosmos. I pulled out of that. So basically,
yeah.
I'm in, as of today, I'm in two of those for reasons.
Yeah. I'm in everything except for 3, it looks like.
Oh, wow. You have a diversified portfolio.
Diversification.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm in Cosmo or not. I can't remember if I'm in that one or not. Somewhere. But I never heard of Near also. That's interesting.
Your favorite Brits actually talk about Near quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? What do you mentioned something else earlier.
Yeah. So
BNY is the global finance services company. Yes, that's what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I looked that up real quick. Yeah. Also, I did see something. It's fake news apparently. Ripple purchasing Swift, but
there was also news of them trying to purchase Circle.
Yeah, it's fake news.
Yeah.
It does say XRP is set to capture 21 trillion from Swift. Ripple's bold prediction. Basically, capture as in like they're going to take away from, essentially.
Well, it just depends on how things play out, because the ball's definitely in Swift's court. Because Swift, we've talked about this before. Anybody that's complaining that Xcoin or utility coin is ISO 222 compliant, that's fake news. There's no such thing as a compliant coin.
Right.
You could build on top of a coin to transmit these messages, but there's no such thing as a coin that's inherently compliant. There's no badge. There's no real standard. It's just messaging of being able to transmit a message. Swift has tested with Chainlink. They've actually done integrations with Chainlink. They've tested with Hedera. I'm sure they've tested with XRP. So whatever Swift decides to do, because they've already done their upgrades, they're just waiting on their partner banks to complete the upgrades, and there's a deadline coming up. And when was it? November this year or earlier?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, coming up this year is the deadline for all banks to switch from the Swift messaging system to the new one. So what that effectively means on how the integrations actually start shifting, or whether or not they still go through Swift or they go through some other protocol directly, that's yet to be seen. So, I mean, granted,
November.
Ripple has done a lot of work, presumably, to do a lot of partnerships. I'm sure they can't discuss even more of the partnerships that they have done because of NDAs and other things. But in these terms, a partnership could be as simple as we're going to loan you a developer to test what it would be like to operate on our chain. It's basically a capability test. That doesn't mean that whatever that test is going to go production. So from my perspective, being a little bit of a pessimist here, is what is the total market capture going to be aside from all of those partnerships? Because those partnerships effectively are meaningless until they're fulfilled. It's like just, counting your chickens before the eggs are hatched.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so as you're talking here, so November 2025 is the date you're talking about for the banks to be switched to Swift ISO 20022. If XRP is ready to go, obviously, I mean, it obviously does well with, that's what they're designed to do, cross-border transactions, and they dropped the ball, we could see something happen in November with XRP, right? If the stars align, that could be interesting. So something to look forward to over the next few months. The possibility of XRP, stepping in there, taking over. I mean, I wouldn't say take over, but what I mean. It's kind of like it could be that they're there and ready to go, and could actually gain a lot of traction if the banks, do start dropping the ball on that, and they actually enforce the requirement. So it's who would enforce that though? Actually,
I think it's Swift that'll actually do the enforcement. I think Swift would actually turn people off and that term makes the integrations. I'm leaning towards XRP. That's what I'm saying is like I'm a bit of a pessimist on this because it would be Swift that says, okay, on this date, we're going to turn off our ability to parse Swift transactions. Any bank that is not on the new standard or the new messaging system will no longer be able to participate within Swift.
Yeah.
So that means that you're either on, so you said it was 20,000, not 2,000?
20,022.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
ISO 20022.
Yeah.
Cross-border payments.
Yep. So basically you're on this ISO 20,022 or you're on Swift.
Yeah.
And when Swift gets cut off, where do you go? Because you don't go to XRP because even XRP is trying to do the ISO the ISO messaging. So that's why I'm being the pessimist. So it's going to be that new integration. So you could say, well, as a bank, I'm just going to turn Swift off and I'm going to do native blockchain transmissions. That could be an option. But if you are getting cut off from Swift outside of ISO 20,022, what's going to happen in that case, right? It's not, I'm going to go to a blockchain. The enforcement's going to be on Swift. So Swift says, okay, we'll give you a grace period or this or that or do case by case.
That's what I mean. I wonder how much of a deadline that really is. If it's a moving deadline, if it's like put an exception in, or that's what I wonder. It's like
I think what is her name? Christine Gerard, the European Union central bank head.
Yeah.
She's been
Mm,
waiting for regulatory clarity from the European Union and the SWIFT, and she's the one that keeps bringing up this date because there's a lot of things that she wants to do, and she says that if this deadline is missed, then it's just going to be very costly to try to catch back up again.
let's see if I can find out here tomorrow. Christine Lagarde.
Lagarde.
Christine Lagarde. Yeah, European Central. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I gotcha. Um, I see Pi is kind of in the news again. We talked about that in the past.
Yeah, you try to get me into it, and then I just gave up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing the mining on it. Says it will never become a stable coin, says an expert, but I'm not sure they want to be a stable coin. I didn't realize they wanted to be. I thought they're just another currency, cryptocurrency of sorts.
Oh, you just reminded me of something.
Yeah,
So that could be a good. This could be a good thing or a bad thing.
it's not a stable coin. That Pi is not a stable coin. Yeah. Yeah, it is not. Will never become a stable coin. Yeah. Claim will give. Yeah. The thing is, I don't think it's even on the open market yet, like the open crypto market. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still doing development and mining and all that stuff. Proof of concept. What I remind you of there?
Um. Okay. So there was a regulation. So markets in crypto assets. So that's EU's big uh, regulatory bill that passed. It's called MiCA. So it's their regulation. And then part of that regulation to be MiCA compliant actually requires basically bank style features like being able to claw back or bring back a transaction. So let's say that somebody's reporting like fraud reports on credit cards. So when somebody uses your credit card, you call your credit card company, it goes to their security department and they pull back that transaction. So temporarily it does hurt, the retailer.
Right.
And it's one of the things that's kind of like weird. Algorand itself, the token, does not have clawback enabled, but the chain allows you to create tokens or ASAs with the ability to freeze or claw back. One of the things where USDC native on Algorand is those two features, and which means that USDC, just by the nature of those features being in Algorand, makes it MiCA compliant, because that means that if you get accused of fraud or you get accused of theft or trying to launder money, they can freeze basically your wallet, your USDC in your wallet,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
right? Or they can actually take that USDC, because USDC, any stablecoin by definition, is centralized because there's a central authority in control of that coin or that token. So they can actually monitor and track where those things are going.
Right. Well, that just goes back to the whole thing we've talked about in the past of that's what crypto is all about, is better security with your finances.
Right. So that's one thing. And then I need to do more research. I forgot to really read into it. So
I shouldn't say
yes,
it's all it's about, but
so VeChain announced MiCA compliance for its VET and VETHO tokens in March of this year, positioning it as a compliant player in European crypto landscape. So now the question becomes, because VETHO is the gas for transactions for VeChain. And it actually mentions VET and not VeChain. So this is actually kind of disconcerting to me. Is this like, who's the central authority that's got control to do the freeze and clawbacks of my VET or my VETHO? That is very concerning. It's like, I could understand a stablecoin requiring those features, but the actual native assets, that's something that's giving me more heartburn at the moment.
yeah, I gotcha.
I need to do more research on it. I mean, it's like I'm glossing over it. I saw it briefly. I just brought it up, but I'm like, just the way it's reading right now, just from doing the TLDR, be like, oh boy.
So, okay, let me ask you this now. As you're talking, because I'm starting to see things evolving a little bit and unwinding
Hmm.
essentially as we move forward over time. Is we have these major assets like VeChain, XRP, ADA, Algorand. These are I think you just said it. It was, what was the word you used? These are
Native
like
asset.
the native asset, right? These are
Hmm.
these are like what allows the technology to work essentially.
Hmm.
So, and then now you're talking about, now we're starting to see these stable coins, this, like you said, the VETH, which is the gas token. These are all the things that are kind of like stacking on top of it, essentially, like kind of like I look at it as like a development platform, essentially. Like you have your base code essentially of what you're you're building, and then on top of that you build your apps on top of it. Like, example for a phone, right? You have your
Hmm.
phone, it's a base OS. On top of that, you have your apps inside the phone that are all built on top of this platform. I, is that what I mean? Is that what we're kind of seeing? I think. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like, so if you're invested in these base, that's essentially, you're invested in like what they're going to do with that. All the different
Right.
apps, let's for say,
Hmm.
for lack of better terms, to they're going to build on top of that in order to conduct business and do things that they want to do. Does that sound right to you? Like, I
Right.
mean, that's just I think that's what we're starting to see unfold. Essentially, we're starting to see that. Whereas, like, the early adopters are going to be in these base assets because we essentially saw the writing on the wall for it, and then in time those base assets will increase in value because they're going to be getting used to be able to do all this technology that they're trying to build on those base assets, depending
Hmm.
on what they build and how they roll things out, obviously. But I mean, is that go like
Yeah.
I see you're
No.
like, you want to say something, and so I was like,
Well,
yeah, go for it.
yeah, you actually are hitting the nail on the head. So basically,
Right.
the native token. So if you're invested into a native token on um, a DLT, you are invested in the base technology. You are effectively based, in your terms, right? You funny talk about the OS. You are investing in the OS of that chain.
Right.
Now, VeChain is special because it's one of the few. It's the only one that I know of. I'm sure there's probably another or two. I don't know all of them. So,
There's others,
but
yeah.
VeChain's very unique to where it's actually a split token. So traditionally, ETH, Bitcoin. I mean, you just can list them out. I mean, pretty much the top 100 is the native token is used for the gas fee of making a transaction. So it is basically a single use. It's what gives it effectively value. Now, VeChain decided to split the native token from gas. So by holding VeChain, you are then in turn rewarded VETHO. So VETHO has basically hyperinflation tokenomics, but it makes it extremely cheap to transact on VeChain. And the encouragement is effectively is what the expectation is to capitalize on people's greed. So I'm going to, instead of selling my vet, I'm going to sell the VETHO that I've earned because I have very low transaction needs. So I'm going to sell the VETHO that I have to people that have high transaction needs. So I can then in turn buy more vet, increasing my earnings of VETHO. So that's
Right.
effectively what that game is in tokenomics. So basically, what you're trying to do is encourage people that are barely using the chain to saying, I don't need this, so I'm going to sell it to buy more of what I want to hold, because ultimately this is going to be worth more in value at some point in the future, which is the gamble.
Right.
It's one of the few chains that actually would thought through that, and it kind of does make sense. That's why I'm saying it's like their compliance with MiCA is concerning because to be MiCA compliant requires assets to be freezable and the ability to claw back. And that means that you have hyper centralization around the tokens. And I'm like, in a decentralized asset, how is that possible?
Hmm.
it raises a lot of questions, and I would have to read more into it. So I'm going to say this. I'm speaking out of ignorance at the moment. So forgive me if I'm getting it wrong or if I'm reading it wrong. But that's what I'm reading at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think the decentralization, the whole I guess you're doing transactions without somebody seeing it, essentially, was a
No,
byproduct. Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
no.
okay.
So decentralization is important because it goes to the trust of the network. So the
Hmm.
more centralized the network is, whether it's node count or if it's voting power, whatever it is, you have the ability to manipulate the network. Whether that is um, of ultimately it's detrimental to the network itself by you being able to manipulate it because you can manipulate the price or you could falsify transactions. It depends on how the centralization surfaces.
Hmm.
The more decentralized a network becomes, and the more community driven the network becomes, that means that effectively it becomes really hard or impossible to hijack effectively the network and its transactions.
Hmm.
Basically, what we're talking about when we're talking about DLTs, blockchain, all these technologies is actually having trust in a trustless society. I don't have to trust you to know that if I use a properly decentralized network, that when you say X wallet has the money that I'm expecting, I can go and take a look at the wallet, be like, yes, you have the money I'm expecting. I'm willing to start talking to you about this contract. We talk about the contract. We shake hands. You send me the money, and then it all happens in a decentralized way. There is no way for you to fake what's in your wallet,
Right. Right. Yeah.
right?
Well, it goes back to security. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's the security.
Trust,
But
security,
if
all
you're
that.
looking at privacy and transaction privacy and those sorts of things, then there's Monero, there's I think Midnight for ADA. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
lot of people have been dabbling with some more privacy features in crypto. I mean, there's even privacy features being planned for Algorand. So hopefully, we can get more privacy enablement as we move forward. But at the same time, you have the heavy hand of governments that don't like citizens having that level of privacy.
Well, the problem is with that is crime, right? That's the if you
Crime
have
happens.
exactly it does. I understand that, but people try to manipulate things to to use for criminal, you know,
Well, as
things.
it stands, any criminal that's using criminal to ugh, yeah, I stumbled over that, didn't I? Any, I've said this before, and I'll probably have to keep saying it. Any criminal that's using crypto today for criminal activity, they deserve to be in jail because they're morons. Because it's not 100% anonymous; it's pseudonymous, and
Right.
the it it's entirely possible to dox yourself because the thing is that the way the entire system is set up, you have to use a centralized exchange to exit out of that market, which means that the only way to exit out of crypto, if you're using it for criminal means, is to effectively dox yourself. You need photo ID, you need proper this and proper that, all this documentation to exit. And then the second you exit, they'd be like, oh, this guy did this crime on this date. Go pick him up.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's all that needs to happen.
It's almost like reverse of what they're trying to do.
Hmm.
Essentially, you've kind of put yourself in a situation now. It's much more traceable,
Hmm.
essentially, because
Right. It's
it's
extremely traceable. As I said, it's
yeah.
pseudonymous. In other words, you could do a lot of things anonymously, even in Bitcoin, but without the need for Monero or anything that's
Mhm.
completely private. You could operate pseudonymously. But the second you dox yourself, all the transactions that led to that final point can be backtracked.
Right. Everything's
So
traceable.
it's kind of
Yeah.
pointless to try to hide your traces as of today. Criminals use cash. It's liquid, it's light, it's easy to carry, it's easy, the transportation, and everybody takes it.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is drop off a suitcase and that's it. It's just like there's no history of that transaction happening.
Right. Well, there's a whole other side of that, but yeah.
But I'm just saying, is it's like, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
The people that say, criminals use crypto because of X, Y, and Z, they're either ignorant or lying.
Hmm.
And my side of it is give me the privacy features, because the way I transact is nobody's business beyond my own. Period.
Right.
I don't care. It's like, I'm not saying it's just like criminals will operate criminally regardless of the technologies that are available to them. Why hamper law-abiding citizens? And if you're saying, well, I have nothing to hide, then it's like, where are the glass houses? Where are the no houses with no blinds in them? They don't exist, because the need for privacy exists within our own humanity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a great point. Where are the houses without blinds? That's funny. Maybe in New York. I don't know. A lot of people in New York just live in these apartments that everybody's just there. They are. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, real quick, kind of like in closing.
I think we're wrapping up. Yep. In closing.
So, now there's a AI dashboard that I was introduced to today. It's not a dashboard, but an AI agent that's making its rounds in the Algorand community on X. And for the looks of the site, it started with Solana. So if anybody knows more about it, they can feel free to correct me in the comments. But it's agentnyla.com. And what this actually enables is quick tipping on X. So you don't need to know their wallet address. You can just mention the AI agent in the message and tell it to send crypto from your wallet, basically the type of crypto, and then mention the person that you want to send it to. And then the agent will then use that wallet to send.
So it's kind of the easy button for
it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's interesting.
Now, the way I would use personally, I haven't put anything into the wallet at all, not yet. I would not use this as my everyday wallet. What I would do is put just a little bit of algo in there as hey, I feel like tipping somebody, and I know that stuff is there because it is a web wallet. It's not a custody wallet. It's not like the Pair wallet or anything like that. So,
yeah.
And you're allowing an agent to actually commit transactions for you, which kind of means that, not your keys, not your wallet. So you need to be careful.
What's your verification on that? Like, how's it verify who you are? Do you know? Did it say?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, is it biometric, by voice, by, is it fingerprint?
No, it just is the login to the X platform.
Okay. So yeah. See, that's a vulnerability right
there.
Yeah,
it is. That's why I said is that you have to be very careful with these the tools that you use. That's why I said I would use it very minimalistically and have a controlled balance on there. So if somebody tipped me and that put me over what I wanted to keep into it, then I would draw it down. If it went below what I want to keep in there, then I would bring it back up. So I would keep it basically very tight, so that way if something did happen, any losses would be very constrained.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real world. I just did what you did earlier. It's a real world use of crypto with the easy button, and it's just the beginning, obviously. So I'm sure in time they'll figure out better ways to manage it, so it's more secure. But that's kind of neat. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we're on the cuffs of a lot of stuff here happening and seeing things happen in the future.
As when we started this and said, I think but at the first episode, I was talking about, my doubts over the super cycle, but the further into the cycle we get and the more it deviates and the more that's happening, the more likely we're going to be in one. But I still go within that skeptical frame of mind of, with the number of people that's expecting it, it's not going to really happen the way people are thinking it's going to happen. Basically, it's going to be kind of like this false start type thing, and it's going to wipe a lot of people out in the process.
What do you mean by that? Embellish on that a little bit, just
Well, so
because
basically, is it's like in this in basically this false super cycle scenario. What I think effectively is going to what I think is going to end up happening is like you're going to have this washout that happens in the super cycle. That's kind of like already written the tea leaves. We're heading towards that moment. This dot bomb. We're going back to early 2000s, right? The comparison to the internet. So the shit's going to get washed away. Stuff is going to get dropped to zero. So people are going to get wiped out there. And there are going to be people that are going to start chasing things, be like, I should have gotten into this. I should have gotten into that. And you're going to have like these little micro pumps that are going to start happening. And then at the same time, people are going to start drawing down and taking profit. Especially like a lot of the whales are going to try to manipulate things the best that they can because they already do it. There's evidence that whales manipulate. So then then the market's going to actually probably collapse in a sense. And then you're going to have a panic where retail that can't afford because they're overinvested. So they're going to pull out, potentially at a loss. That's what I'm saying. There's going to be this false start.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be a collapse necessarily.
I'm not saying a collapse to zero in that sense, but
Yeah.
enough to cause a panic.
Scare.
Yeah.
Panic selling. Yeah.
Basically, this high fear that's going to draw a lot of people away from the market. And then basically the real super cycle takes off to where real price discovery happens to where these utility coins are going to be valued.
That's what you do when that happens.
I said there's going to be there are so many people that are expecting basically the super cycle, and it's going to be significantly more nuanced than what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but also like if we see that big pullback, that's when for me that's when I buy. Buy, baby, buy. Because we know, right? That's what we're trying to put across here. It's not that we know, we just have a confidence in it. Essentially, like that's all I'm saying. I don't want to oversell it either because it's personal at that point.
Right, and you just pointed it out because in the list that I gave you, you're invested in most of that list, which means that you have a diversified portfolio. So if half that list went to zero, would you care?
Exactly, I don't. And that's what I do. I only invest in when I feel like I can lose. Now, granted, I'd be sad. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be happy. But also, I feel like it's kind of like you're shooting in the dark, essentially. Yeah, you can do your own research and kind of have some confidence in what you're investing in and have a good feeling about it. But in the end, we don't know. We don't have that crystal ball. So the idea for me with diversification is to have that ability of like, hey, you know what? I'm in not equally across. I'm a little more in others and then some because I feel a little more confident in others. But for me, it's more of like if I fail at these 3 over here, I got 4 more over here that are, or even 2 more that have gone substantially higher. And it makes up for that loss, but also increases the amount I've invested. So the idea is we're trying to shoot in the dark, but educationally, I guess you could say, but also like know that like there's a possibility of losing over here by a possibility of winning over here. That's what diversification is about.
Well, at the same time, it's just like you take a look at the number of layer ones. I don't even think about the layer twos, but just think about the number of layer ones that are out there. Yeah. There is too many for any one person to go through all of
them. 100%.
That's why the number one piece of advice that anybody tells a newcomer is take a look at the top 100. Stay there. That's the first advice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like for me, that's where I'm pretty much staying is in the top 100. And then after that is it's like you only have so many cycles. So you basically say is that, well, okay, I heard about this one. Let me research it. Not quite for me. I heard about this one. Let me research it. Not quite for me. And you keep doing your research until you start figuring out the ones that actually speak to you. And yeah, I'm slowly kind of like starting to talk like an Algorand maxi, but it
I guess
has
we
the
balance each other out because I'm the
uh,
XRP maxi, so it's fine.
well, I mean, it's got a level of
Uh,
usability that speaks to me because it's
yeah.
like I didn't just buy and hold it, because yeah, I have XRP. It's sitting on my Tangent wallet, but that's all it's doing. It's just sitting on my Tangent wallet. I mean, for me, there's no use for it. I don't have a dedicated XRP wallet, outside of that. For
Hmm.
Algorand, I have the Pair wallet. The MasterCard is coming to the US. It's just not available here yet.
Right.
It's just
Well,
like
again, we're
there's a
also
level of.
different investors.
Mhm,
We've talked about this. That
mhm,
you're more of a you want something that's going to potentially create another income on its own with the way however you're investing it, essentially, or you're doing your
mhm.
different, um, I guess, things that make money for you versus
Right.
just waiting on the market or putting in a savings and building interest. Essentially, you're trying to use the utility to make yourself more funds.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's again, I think this whole I think today we talked about this whole thing with the base, you know coins, crypto being this base of what everything's going to be built on. It's just a matter of, are we invested in the right base, and
Mhm.
and I think if you are, that's your golden child. We all want that golden child, right? We want to find that one that's going to get us the money that we want, that FU money, but
Mhm.
it's, we don't know which one's going to be. So
Yeah, it's throwing darts at a dartboard,
100%. It's, yeah.
blindfolded.
Yeah. Well, semi blindfold, one eye open, right? It's like the
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. Yeah, it's like you don't have your depth perception.
right, right. It's so it's, you just don't know. And it's, and again, we're not financial advisors. We're not, it's just, you have to be, you have to educate yourself in order to make educated decisions with what finances you're available to potentially lose.
Mhm.
That's how you gotta look at it. And that's why I said diversification is big for me, because I feel like that's the type of investor I'm in. I'm not an investor that, I'm not looking for that short. I mean, yes, I would love to find that short term. Don't get me wrong, but that short term golden child, sure, not going to find it most likely. You only hear about we've talked about this in the past. You only hear the stories of people who have found that. You don't hear
Mhm.
about those hundreds of thousands and probably millions of people who did not and lost all their money. You hear about those two, three, four, five people that, found
And
that golden child, just got
yeah, and
lucky.
chances are those two, three, or four, five end up with the money from those tens of thousands that you didn't hear about.
Exactly, exactly. They're winning on losers. So but I don't know. I lost my train of thought, but basically, that's the type of investor I am. I'm looking at long term investments. I'm looking at like diversification, and that's how I invest both in the stock market and in crypto and
Mhm.
just in general. I mean, that's like you buy a house. That's a long term investment. You buy a property. That's a long term investment.
Yeah,
You got
it's
to
like
kind
I
of look
am
at
a
it that way.
long-term investor, but at the same time, I want the investment to be a proactive investment.
Right.
It's like Algorand. I don't think is a short-term is going to disappear within the next 5 years. I think Algorand's actually going to be one of the ones, in my opinion, it's going to make it.
Right.
And because there's a lot of things that are happening, within basically the ecosystem. The Algorand Foundation is doing a lot of work, a lot of development, a lot of reach out, but there's a lot of people that are picking it up and integrating with it without any initiation from the foundation, which is actually really cool because that's what happened with that's why I brought up Nyla. They just went ahead and integrated it without talking to anybody. It's like, here you go. So
Right.
they support three chains. They support Solana, Ethereum, and Algorand. I mean, that's just three. I mean, considering what the top 10 is, the
Hmm.
fact that it just jumped down because Algorand's in the top 40, I think, right now, in market cap. It's
Yeah.
not in
Not
the
sure.
top
Yeah.
10. So it
Yeah.
could have just picked anything that was within a close to top 10. Why didn't it go with Theta? I mean, I mean, there's,
You
I'm not a
like that?
blockchain
It makes you feel
developer.
good about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does make me feel good about the choice,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people that speak about the ease of development on Algorand, and
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reasons why it was the next integration because it was just one of those logical choice things because of how easy it is. They just probably picked up the tools. It was like, oh, this is not going to be that hard. Let's just go ahead and bring it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people like. That's what a lot of people not complaining, I would say, but just reluctant about crypto is like investing, and the people are just like, what are you investing in? Like it's not a tangible asset.
Mhm.
It's what is that? So I always tell people, like, you're investing in the technology that they supply. And that's why I think it goes back to the whole, like we talked earlier, this base of your base technology, which is that crypto, the Algorand, XRP, VeChain, whatever. What you're investing in that and what they can provide for the community to build on, and that's what.
And All in Crypto actually down does put it down. I'm paraphrasing, but I think this is the way he puts it, and it's very eloquent. Is that we're entering into the age of monetization of information.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the internet brought us the information age. Crypto is going to bring us the age of being able to monetize that information. So in theory, in a utopian world, right? And I've kind of done this analogy, right? Where we're basically heading in one of two paths. We're heading either to a utopia or to a dystopia. But in the utopian world, that means that you own your information completely and totally. That
Mm-hmm.
means that you're able to divulge as much or as little as you want at any point in time, depending on what you're trying to do. But that also means that since you are in control and owning your information, that means that there's not these information snipers like, hey, let me just put out a big name there, Facebook, a free service that you don't pay for,
Google.
right? And Google, you don't pay for it, right? You are the product. They're
Right.
sucking information. They're sucking metadata out of you. So what would in this monetization of information age mean when they're not having to pay you for that metadata? And again, that's more the utopian side of it. They could still be that middle ground where there's this little bit of a battle that's constantly happening between freedom versus control, all those types of things. But I'm just saying is like that's the direction that crypto is going to be going to be able to open up. And Dr. Leon Baird actually even talks about it because micropayments within AI being able to track and controlled information. When I say controlled, I'm talking about intellectual property. Because a property owner can actually revoke basically the use of their intellectual property at any point. So that means that you have in real time, you have to say, oh, I can use this. I have to give them this. And it's tiny little micro transactions that are happening really, really quick. You can't do that within the current system. It's going to require a DLT to be able to handle the volume and the tiny fractions of money that we're actually talking about, and being able to do it cheaply enough to where it's actually worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, the use cases are tremendous, and a lot of them are just, as I start hearing some of these, I'm like, I would never have thought of that, but that actually makes sense. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's endless, essentially. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So please give us a like, share, and comment down below. I really like reading out your comments. Now, join us next time. Have a good
All
one.
right. Till next time.
Till next time.